Question 2, I need to formulate substantive procedures to test compliance with the Companies Act over the Beans contract. So I need to go to the Beans contract, see what sections of the Companies Act are applicable, then go into the Companies Act to see what the criteria is, and then go and test whether that criteria has been met. Okay, so guys, I'm not going to be able to really do any general procedures there because I'm dealing with specifically one contract and only dealing with the legality from a Companies Act perspective. Okay, so I will be able to do test of detail and analytical, provided there's something I can do an analytical for. So let's go to the Beans contract to see what sections in the Companies Act are applicable. So I'm at significant contract, and I can see here I've got director's interest. So that is going to form part of the contract because the director has an interest in the entity that is providing the contract. So section 75, did this director disclose his interest and not take part in order for this to be a valid contract? So I'm going to have to go to section 75 to see what are the criteria, and then develop a test to test that criteria. And then in addition, we've got the surety here, so we've got a financial assistance to a director or somebody related to the director in the form of this entity which is related, section 45. So I've got two sections now that I need to go into the Companies Act to see what the criteria is for those to be valid, and then I'm going to go and test them. Okay, so we can start with the director's interest because that's the first part that was addressed. Section 75. Section 75, director's personal financial interest. So just explaining what meets the requirement for a director's personal financial interest. We've already seen that it is a director's personal financial interest, so all I now need to do is find out what are the requirements. So, first thing, at any time a director may disclose this personal financial interest. So I need to go and inspect that this has been disclosed in a director's interest register. Then, if a company has an interest on a personal matter or a matter that is going to be addressed at a meeting, which is the case here, then you must disclose this interest before. I need to go and inspect that this was disclosed before the meeting. So I'm going to have to look at the date too that it was disclosed, or the timing. Must disclose any material information. So I need to go and inspect that this was disclosed, material information. May disclose any observations, so I don't have to because it's a may. If he's present, he must leave. So I need to go and inspect the minutes or the quorum to see that he left. Must not take part in the consideration, so I need to go and then inspect the resolution or inspect the voting for the resolution to make sure that he wasn't part of the decision. While absent, he's regarded as being present in terms of the meeting quorum, but not in terms of support. So that's why we're going to go and check the quorum and the minutes to see that he was there, but then he left, and then the decision to make sure he didn't take part in that decision. Must not execute any documentation, so I'm going to go inspect that contract to make sure that he did not sign on behalf of the company. And then it states that the decision is valid if he has or disclosed his interest, or if he didn't disclose and was involved, but it was subsequently ratified by an ordinary resolution. So I'm going to just inspect that ordinary resolution if he did take place in the decision, or inspect the court again if he took place in the decision. So I'm doing question 2, and I'm going to say the following audit procedures will be performed to test. And the first thing we're going to do is the director's personal financial interest. Okay, and I'm going to say he needed to disclose this interest. So I'm going to go and inspect the director's interest register for disclosure of Optimus Prime's shareholding in beans. Now I want to go and test the decision to enter into this contract and whether his interest was declared prior to that meeting and that he followed all the rules regarding the authorization of this contract where he should not have been involved. So now I'm going to go and inspect the minutes of the meeting authorizing the beans contract for the first thing, disclosure of Optimus Prime's interest as well as the nature and extent of his interest. Then I'm going to go and see that he left the meeting prior to the decision. Then I'm going to go and inspect the resolution authorizing the contract with beans. So I'm no longer looking at the minutes anymore. I want the actual director's resolution. And I want to see that Optimus Prime has not voted. Don't want to see that he voted for this decision. Okay, and then if he did vote, and didn't disclose his interest, then I'm going to go and inspect. There's an ordinary resolution by the shareholders authorizing the contract, or I'm going to inspect the court order. Okay, so I followed the requirements of the standard and I just looked in the different documents to test that he adhered to what was required, and then if he did not adhere to what was required, I've gone and inspected the other requirements per section 75. Okay, back to the scenario. So I've tested the director's interest with my substantive procedures. Now I need to test the financial assistance to the director or someone related to the director. This is financial assistance to a company that the director has shareholding in. So he is related there. Okay, so let's go to section 45. Section 45, loans or financial assistance to a director. So it explains what would be considered financial assistance, and then it explains what needs to happen. So the board may authorize the company to provide financial assistance to a director or to somebody related or interrelated. Okay, so that's how it becomes applicable. What needs to happen in order for this to be authorized? Must either be pursuant to an employee share scheme or there must be a special resolution. So I'm going to go and inspect whether there was this employee share scheme, and if not, inspect that there was a special resolution by the shareholders within the previous 2 years. So there is further requirements, not just looking for a special resolution. I've also got to check the date of this. Okay, then for the board to continue with authorization, they have to immediately after meet the solvency and liquidity test. So I'm going to have to go and test after that current assets are greater than current liabilities and total assets are greater than total liabilities. I'm going to have to go and inspect the terms to see if they are fair and reasonable. And guys, here is where I could also do analytical procedures, compare it to the market, to see if it is reasonable. I have to go and inspect that any conditions in the memorandum of incorporation have been adhered to, satisfied. So I'm going to have to go and inspect the MOI. And then, company must provide written notice of the resolution to the shareholders and to trade unions within 10 business days if it exceeds 1/10 of 1%, or within 30 business days. So now I'm going to have to go and inspect this, inspect the notice. And guys, I will just provide either option because I don't have the details to see that it is 1/10 of 1% versus anything less within 30 days. Okay, so I need to go and test all of these requirements now. So again, I'm going to have to go and get the resolutions from both the board and the resolutions from the shareholders. And now guys, I'm doing the financial assistance. To a director. And I'm going to say, inspect the memorandum of incorporation to ensure that financial assistance to a director is allowed. Now that I've got this, I can go and then test the requirements. So then I can say, go and inspect that a special resolution was passed by the shareholders within the previous 2 years, or inspect the employee share scheme. We don't know which one. Okay guys, because this question is only out of 10 and we've already got director's personal interest and now this financial assistance, we can't go into too much detail. But if this question was out of 20, then you would need to go and test the special resolution a little bit better. You would first need to go and inspect the notice to the shareholders prior to the meeting. Then you would need to go and inspect the quorum so that the meeting is actually allowed to take place. They've got the 25% voting rights present, and then you would go and inspect the special resolution. Okay, so there's an additional 2 more marks there if you need them. However, when there are sufficient marks available, you won't get those marks because those are simple, easy marks to get. Okay, so let me continue. Then, now I need to go and inspect the minutes of the directors' meeting authorizing the financial assistance that the board are satisfied that entity will meet the solvency and liquidity test post, and that the terms are fair and reasonable. The board were required to meet these two criteria before they were to approve the decision. Okay, and then I'm going to go and inspect the board resolution for the financial assistance. Now that I've done that, I can't just go and inspect that they did these two. I need to go and test that myself. So I'm going to test that they were solvent and liquid post by doing the calculations myself. So I'm going to obtain the accounting records post the financial assistance, and recalculate the solvency and liquidity after the financial assistance, by comparing total assets to total liabilities, ensuring that total assets exceed total liabilities, and compare current assets to current liabilities, ensuring current assets exceed current liabilities. And then I need to test if it's fair. So, obtain the interest rates from the bank and compare to the interest on this financial assistance, and I can just compare other surety in the market to the surety on this financial assistance to see that it is fair and reasonable. Then I need to inspect the minutes for the board's satisfaction of terms and conditions set out in the memorandum of incorporation. And then finally, guys, inspect the notice to the shareholders and unions within 30 days or 10 days if it exceeds 1/10 of 1% of the net assets or net worth. And then once again, guys, you can see I've got loads of marks here, but if I needed more marks when it comes to this board resolution, I can go and inspect the notice of the meeting in terms of the MOI, what are the requirements, and I can go and inspect the quorum for your directors, which is the majority need to be present. And it's the resolution, you want majority voting in favor. Okay, so there are additional points I can put down if I need to. But like I say, if there are sufficient or there are plenty of marks available, those easy points will not be in a mark plan. Okay, let's move on to question 3.